everyone. Welcome into our latest Trade to Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales, as we break down the biggest developments for the week in cannabis, beginning on Monday, February 3rd, and ending right here on Sunday evening, February 9th. From the Senate banking hearing to RFK news, along with a few companies who reported their latest earnings, there's a lot to dive into. So take a break from your Super Bowl halftime facilities, because this is the TDR's biggest developments for the week in cannabis. So first up, we had a significant event on Capitol Hill this week. The Senate Banking Committee held a hearing on debanking, which is a topic closely watched by the cannabis industry. While the hearing was technically focused on federally legal industries like cryptocurrency and firearms, cannabis had its moment in the spotlight. Senator Thom Tillis from North Carolina made waves by acknowledging the elephant in the room, saying, "We've got the cannabis business. The last time I checked, it's illegal at the federal level. I think we should re-examine that." This is a rare moment of bipartisan recognition for an industry desperate for financial clarity. So why does this matter? Well, despite cannabis being legal in 24 states, including heavy hitters like New York and California, which many of you know, it's still illegal federally. That makes cannabis a cash-heavy business because big banks and credit card companies, they won't touch it. It complicates everything from payroll to paying taxes. This includes cannabis company FlowHub and their CEO Kyle Sherman, who testified at the hearing, sharing that his own company has been debanked, causing major business disruptions. It's clear that the industry is pushing hard for legislation like the Safer Banking Act, hoping that with a political focus on debanking, cannabis might finally get some relief. Let's now move to some political shifts that could influence the cannabis landscape. RFK is on the cusp of becoming the Secretary of Health and Human Services. The Senate committee advanced its nomination by a razor-thin margin of 14 to 13, and a full Senate vote is expected soon. While Kennedy's stance on cannabis hasn't been front and center, his role could be pivotal in shaping health-related cannabis policies. Let's now pivot to the corporate front in Aurora Cannabis. Wow, they had a blowout third quarter for fiscal 2025. They posted record numbers in global medical net revenue, net income, and adjusted EBITDA. The real headline? Their medical cannabis revenue surged 51% year over year to $68.1 million, making up 77% of their total revenue. International markets are booming for them, with growth of up to 112%, and even their plant propagation business is thriving. They flipped from a $17 million loss last year to $31 million in net income this quarter. Aurora's secret sauce seems to be a focus on higher marginal medical cannabis and tight cost control. On the flip side, Canopy Growth reported a 5% drop in revenue year over year, landing at $74.8 million. While they managed to narrow the operating losses significantly, it's clear the company is still navigating rough waters. CEO Luc Mongeau remains optimistic, focusing on sustainable profitability and reducing debt, which they've done with a $112 million prepayment. Meanwhile, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro made headlines by doubling down his push to legalize adult-use cannabis. During his budget address, he emphasized that Pennsylvania is missing out on substantial tax revenue, while residents cross state lines to buy cannabis in places like New Jersey and New York. Shapiro's proposal projects nearly $1.3 billion in tax revenue over 5 years if legalization kicks in by July of 2025, with sales starting in January of 2026. His plan also includes expunging nonviolent cannabis possession records, framing legalization both as an economic and social justice move. However, Pennsylvania's divided government means that path forward isn't necessarily guaranteed. In a quieter move this week, Republican Andrew Clyde of Georgia withdrew an amendment that could have derailed the Biden administration's effort to reschedule cannabis. His amendment would have tightened the DEA's grip on scheduling decisions, potentially stalling progress. The withdrawal keeps the door open for the cannabis industry's hopes around rescheduling. Speaking of global developments, Village Farms International, which trades on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol VFF, they've officially kicked off cannabis deliveries in the Netherlands through its subsidiary Leli Holland. This is part of the Dutch government's regulated cannabis experiment. With zero tax in the Dutch market and rising demand, Village Farms sees enormous growth potential here, and really, why wouldn't they? In leadership news, Air Wellness announced the resignation of CFO Brad Asher, who's been around the company for quite some time. He's leaving to pursue other opportunities. Despite the shakeup, the company says it's well-positioned for the future, and we'll be watching this closely to see who steps in for that role. On the investment front, Navy Capital, once a major cannabis-focused investment firm, announced it's shutting down. The catalyst? Florida's failed legalization vote last year. CEO Sean Stifel admitted that their thesis that cannabis would quickly become a federal, legal, profitable industry simply didn't pan out. Let's face it, it's a sobering reminder of how volatile the cannabis investment landscape remains. And one last thing before we wrap up and let you get back to the second half action, let's talk about something a little bit more fun. The Super Bowl. Hey, it's Super Bowl Sunday. Cannabis sales historically spike ahead of the big game with an average increase of 13 to 16% compared to a typical week. In 2023, sales surged 16%, and this year it's expected to follow the same trend. Wings, weed, and football. It's becoming an American tradition. I'll let you all get back to the second half because that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Traded Black podcast, outlining the biggest developments in cannabis, from banking reform and political shifts to corporate earnings and Super Bowl highs. Let us know if there's anything we missed from this week's developments by leaving some comments below. And if you get a chance, make sure to give this video a like. And as usual, smash that bell for all notifications, and greatly appreciated if you could subscribe to our channel. As usual, one last thing, please make sure to scan this QR code below and subscribe to our daily Baked In newsletter, delivered to your inbox weekdays, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, giving you all the latest updates on the business side and cannabis reform side in this industry. Another big week coming up as Organigram reports earnings on Tuesday. We'll have Beena Goldenberg, their CEO, on Wednesday. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Thanks again, everybody, for watching.